Hello again. We're off to see Tetra Speakers and Emm Labs, who have collaborated to create a $380,000 system. Tetra's been a speaker company with distinction for the last 20 years, Emm Labs for 40, creating high-end audio equipment, and the two of them have come together to form an incredible system worth about $380,000, so I'm dying to go in and see this one. So I guess first, from each of you, because we have to really talk about both companies, a bit of a nutshell history of your individual companies first. So, Adrian?
Sure. Tetra was first formed in 1994 as something different than a speaker company, but really our first showing was in 1998, so it's 21 years now. Yep.
Emm Labs was started in the 90s by my father, Ed Meitner. How it came to be was Ed Meitner was involved with the Sony DSD project, and they asked him to make 8-channel converters for studios. And that's what spawned DSD, which is a 1-bit audio recording format, which is still used in all SACDs today. And then from there we went into the consumer electronic side. So now we design and manufacture high-end DACs, preamplifiers, amplifiers. And the one major thing that sets Emm Labs apart is we design and manufacture every single piece componentry that's inside our products. And that all comes from Ed's design philosophy, which is cost no object, top-of-the-line performance at whatever way possible.
And Tetra is in some ways similarly disposed.
I think it's an often used analogy of a chef. You know, yeah. I don't farm the cows, I don't grow the vegetables. But I take these together and I do what I do best.
Yeah. He's a project manager. He gets one guy to build this, another guy to build that. One of the things that's also been a differentiating thing for Tetra, and it sounds like with the Emm Labs as well, is for a long time musicians being probably your biggest advocates.
That's quite a remarkable thing. I mean, going way back to as a child when I would sit and listen to music, which is what I love to do. It's my number one thing. I would imagine myself sitting with the artists and listening to music with them. I ended up owning a stereo store. Like, it was a whole bunch of things that led me to what I'm ultimately supposed to be doing, which is the crossover in a speaker, overseeing the whole thing, of course. If someone came in and told me they were a musician, in my mind I would say to myself, I don't have anything for them. I don't know why, but in this store there's nothing for them. So when I became the speaker designer for Tetra, all of a sudden the musicians' wallets did open because they were hearing what notes they played that they thought got mixed out. That was one of Herbie's comments. He thought it got mixed out. With your speaker, it's back. Ron Carter, the world's most recorded bass player, saying, Adrian, I've been in the Kind of Blue studio 50 times. I sit there, I stand there, I set up my bass, how it sounds off the wall, and I hear it back in the playback room. The CD comes to me or whatever, the source, I get it, and it's all been for nothing. But on your speakers, Adrian, it's back. And that's why musicians buy Tetra. And the other interesting thing is the endorsements are free of charge. For them, it's the preservation of their music when they listen to Tetra.
And you've got, I mean, you mentioned Herbie Hancock and Ron, but Keith Richards has a set of Tetras. David Torn has a set of Tetras. As from a producer perspective and engineering / mixing mastering, Rob Fraboni, who has actually a set of Tetras that are named after him. With Tetra and Emm coming together, what's the synergy? What's the, how did the relationship happen?
Can I take a shot at that?
Please.
It started when I had my store back in the 90s. We sold the Meitner line. And last year we came to the Montreal show for the first time in about 10 years, and we brought along a Meitner piece. And that was a 100-watt amp. It's this big, if anyone hasn't seen it. And it was powering our 606s, a big room full of people, and people were really happy to see it. So Jamie Sabaran was with us last year at the show, and he saw the reaction we were getting with that, and he picked up the phone and called Amadeus, and Amadeus was open. So for me, it's a thrill to be playing at such a high level of electronics with Tetra. So thank you for taking that phone call.
Thank you. And I think one of the things that really drew us to the project was, of course, Adrian's past relationship, knowing Ed, because Ed he's originally lived in Montreal when he came over from Europe. Yeah. He landed in Montreal, and that's where he met my mom and Susan, who also works at Emm Labs. And one of the things that that Jamie said to us was, you know what, we want to do an all-Canadian display. We want to show the great products that are coming out of Canada. And I think it was a great call because the synergy in the room is fantastic. And Tetra using Musitech's gear, which is Meitner products as well. Now fast forward to the show that we have here today, and we brought our new flagship lineup, which is the amps are much bigger, much more powerful, much more transparent. We do have our monoblock MTRX2 amplifiers here. They're a kilowatt per channel, which means kilowatt left and kilowatt right. They're class AB, ultra low distortion. And one of the main things that Ed did when he designed these amplifiers was he wanted to completely isolate the voltage amplification stage from the power stage. Having those separated really creates that transparency and no effects between them that is going to alter the sound. And that's kind of the modus operandi of Emm Labs, is we don't want to color sound. We don't want to make recordings sound unnatural. We want them to sound exactly as they sounded when they were recorded in the studio. And it's kind of been our philosophy throughout the past 20 years.
Right, and that's the good tie-in with Tetra, because that's exactly, we can speak about myself for a moment. When I went looking for a set of speakers, I was in a car with Adrian, and I looked at him and I said, you know, I'm looking to hear the music that I heard when I was sitting in a room in a control booth with, you know, a 2-inch tape, multi-tracks, just playing a pre-master, you know, mix. I want to get that back. And Adrian just looked at me and smiled. And about 20 minutes later, I heard them, and it was everything I'd hoped for. So, I mean, it's maybe you can talk a little bit about the new Tetra model, that Phoenix that we're looking at over there, and is your new, I guess, flagship.
Flagship, yeah.
And maybe compare it to some extent with what you had before your prior flagship, the 606s.
Right. Well, first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the D-Day conversion versus analog. I just want to touch on that from my point of view. My design philosophy is a K-Tel record should bring you joy. Okay? And his job is to make it so we don't have to listen to K-Tel records, but capture the real thing. And my job is really just to present the electron microscope that sees what comes before. So to comment on what's different, all Tetras have the same sound, which is no sound, right? And my job is, it's actually quite a simple one. If you look at that speaker, there's a 12-inch woofer, there's a ribbon tweeter in the middle, and a 4-inch mid-range. And they're all different diameters. And as you go up in frequency, they go into a smaller diameter. If I don't align it properly as we go up from drivers, as it goes up in frequency, the shape changes, and it sounds like a speaker. So all of our speakers have this sound. What you buy in Tetra is the impact. The more you spend, the more room you have, the more you're going to be at that club, which is, I hope, what your microphones will pick up for us today. But it should always be a 45 from John Lennon's old jukebox should still make you dance. That's so I've been on both sides of the argument, and it's really not my argument. It's really up to the people pushing what can be done there.
Do you think, is there anything else you guys?
How great it is to have you here, John, doing this.
Yeah.
It's great to meet you, and thank you very much for the interview.
You're welcome.
All about jazz.
Yep.
I'm a fan.
All right. Okay, what we'll be listening to today. Lyle Mays' first album from 1986, which is one of the things I played when I first tested my Tetras. The album was reissued, remastered in 1996 when he shifted labels, along with Pat Metheny, with whom he played for many years. And this is the final part of the Alaskan suite on what was side 2 of the vinyl, called Ascent. And the band is a killer band with Lyle Mays on piano and keys, Bill Frisell on guitar, Mark Johnson on double bass, Alex Acuna on on drums, Billy Drews on saxophones, and the great Nana Vasconcelos on percussion. Our next video of the day will be a little bit different. We'll be looking at Solon Electronics. They don't manufacture finished products, but they manufacture a lot of the things that go into those finished products, in particular speaker crossovers. Everybody tells me that it's all in the crossover, so I'm really excited to talk to these people and find out exactly why that is.